If you are an American taxpayer, you might be surprised to learn where your tax dollars have been spent. DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, a new department created solely to seek and find inadequate government spending. Ran by Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, the department has already been on fire in pinpointing some pretty sketchy spending behavior, whether it's heavy foreign aid spending in the military industrial complex or using tax dollars to support useless programs. Let's take a look at their most recent post on X, where they've been sharing these findings. One thing I think you have to give credit to is how, for each of these posts, they're attaching the source location for the data they use. But looking at this first post, the Department of Education has spent over $1 billion promoting DEI in American schools. That breaks down to $489 million for race-based hiring, $343 million for DEI programming, $169 million for DEI mental health initiatives. Now, I'm here to discuss finance and budgeting, but we should take a look at a little piece of what each of these three categories include. Exposing $1 billion in Department of Education grant funding that has entrenched far-left ideologies in education. This first category, the DEI hiring, this category includes DEI or race-based recruiting. Now, I don't know how you feel about hiring in your industry, but in any industry, does it make any sense to hire for anything other than qualifications for the position? So when I look and I see race-based recruiting, this tells me that they're promoting hiring based on skin color, which I feel should never be included in the hiring process. And if you follow this source document here, and I'll let you read deeper in for yourself, but it gives examples of different school districts that are already implementing these practices in their hiring process. Now, I agree with equal representation, but are they attempting to exclude possibly better qualified candidates based on their skin color? And are they prioritizing feelings over the proper skill sets? Never should it be the case where we're willing to sacrifice results for feelings. This next one, DEI programming, $343 million. This sounds to me like it's CRT in the classroom and youth activism programs. And finally, DEI-based mental health, social, and emotional learning. This is your old SEL. If you remember the SEL, it's been around for a long time, but as recently, they're trying to change it. And what I think you should be interested in is what they're trying to make this change to. The answer is likely going to be found right here in Missoula County Public Schools. Policy further states that no student shall, on the basis of that student's gender identity or gender nonconformity, be denied equal access to programs, activities, services, or benefits, or be limited in the exercise of any right, privilege, or advantage, or denied equal access to educational or extracurricular programs and activities. This is where they're attempting to install policy that will allow boys to play in girls' sports. $1 billion spent on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Do you feel this is proper use of your tax money, or do you feel like maybe this was government waste? The next post is the federal government spends 80% of its $100 billion IT budget on maintaining outdated systems. Not only are older systems more expensive to maintain, but they're also more vulnerable to hackers. 80% of a $100 billion budget. That's $80 billion. And I want you to remember that figure. According to the source article for this post, tax refunds, Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid claims are all processed through federal IT systems, but many of these systems are decades old and outdated, which can slow down federal payments. Ever wonder why your income tax return might take so long? And make the taxpayer information vulnerable to cyber attacks. Congress has long recognized aging IT systems as a costly vulnerability for the federal government and has appropriated funding to update these systems. $80 billion. But many of these efforts face delays and setbacks. So if it's delayed and set back, where'd the money go? The system has been updated over the years, but maintaining it is getting harder because it relies on a computer programming language, COBOL, that fewer and fewer programmers know. Now, back in 2005, I was just 2 classes away from finishing my bachelor's in computer science, and COBOL was getting removed from the curriculum then. The university allowed me to take COBOL, and I was the last and final student at the university to take this course, but it was removed from the curriculum even back then. This was nearly 20 years ago. The IRS has spent hundreds of millions of dollars trying to update this system, but the IRS officials said that the system would not be fully replaced until 2030 at the earliest, at which time this would be 60 years old. Now, if you know the history of COBOL, it was first introduced to the federal government back in 1960. So we're at 60 years to date. 2030 would be a 70-year mark. Our federal systems have been running on this program language since before JFK was in office. So using an outdated 60-year-old system in today's tech, I'm sure we're pretty susceptible to cyber attacks. And since our government likes to use national security as the reason to do anything, this is a good time for them to show the proper concern. So $80 billion a year is not enough to get this done? And since it's delayed and set back every year, you think maybe they can show us where that $80 billion's been going? Let's look at the next one. The United States gives more in aid to foreign countries than the next 9 countries combined. Where exactly is that money going, and how is it being spent? By the way, the European Commission, it's a body of the European Union. And the European Union, well, that's 27 countries all on its own. And just what is this foreign aid money we're dishing out being used for? It wouldn't be to fund countries to keep fighting wars, would it? And just when you realize just how much we're sending overseas to fund senseless wars when we should be helping to negotiate peace, this guy decides to take frozen assets of Russia and send to Ukraine. Oh, wait. It's just a loan, of course. So what do you think? Do you feel DOGE is going to serve a good purpose in representing the American taxpayer and restoring our government's financial situation? We'll be back soon to review some more of DOGE's findings. Thanks for watching.